What's up, everyone? How's it going? Welcome to today's market analysis or trade recap episode. Today is Friday, July the 11th. We took one trade and it was a winner. But things potentially could have been done a little bit better, or who knows? That's what we're going to be reviewing here today. And we're going to see if there's anything that we have missed as well. And you'll see how important Bookmap liquidity played to the entire process today, right? Simple. Bookmap liquidity, that was the real liquidity. That's the actual significant liquidity that is driving the market. It's not this chart liquidity. But chart liquidity could be a good estimate. But bookmap liquidity and limit orders are the real liquidity. As you see, we moved up and we had all the way up until a sweep of this liquidity. Came back down, made a big retracement. And then where do we go up again? To sweep these two upper bookmap liquidity levels. Simply how the game played out today. And yeah, I want to dive into the factors that led me to take the trade, which I did, and also the overall market analysis starting from market open to the end of market session. So I want to go ahead and provide a little bit of context in the market really quickly. But coming into market open, we were between levels again, right? We're not bullish or bearish directly from the charts. What we are looking for is to see how bookmap and how we actually show expansion from. Typically where we show expansion and where we see follow through, whether that be with barriers or etc., that is where our direction comes for the day. So coming into market open, we're right in the middle here. I do believe there was some type of zone. Yeah, we had a 4 hour zone here on NQ. And here, let me give you some quick context. NQ. NQ is essentially going to be the same, but we had this 4 hour here that we did happen to break through, but we were in that 4 hour for a lot of time in which we were pumping up. But we had that 4 hour there and we had liquidity down below. We're essentially seeing how bookmap distribution is set, and depending on how we expand close to market open and how we react to potential liquidity, that's where we can truly succeed and take our trades. So let me just open and show you guys the news for today. We didn't have much news today at all. Nothing really driving the market in terms of news, and news can be a good thing in terms of volatility at times, but today we did not have any news, and I'm not going to complain about that nonetheless. So let me just open up Bookmap real quick and then we'll get into the market analysis of the entire session. So let's get straight into that. Let me get into market open time. Let me get on the 5 minute. Alright, I think we might have had a 30 minute, maybe. Mm, or perhaps a 15 minute. I don't remember. But yeah, let's see exactly what happens coming into market open. Alright, there we go. This is what I wanted to mark out. We had this 1 hour liquidity. I deleted it. Why did I delete it? Because he swept it. Right into market open, and prior to market open as well. What we saw was that these highs were swept, or those highs have been swept by these highs. Now going in now, these highs have been swept by these, and if you look on Bookmap, right? This is 1 hour prior to market open. But let me just keep moving forward until we get to our market open time. There we go. What we see happening actually coming into market open was that price actually made its initial phase up right into market open. And let's go see that on the footprint chart as well. We went all the way up there. Potentially we saw absorption, it's hard to tell, but shortly after taking out this bookmap liquidity, close to 300 but not at 300, we started falling down pretty aggressively, and you'll be able to see that very quickly here. Let me just pause it real quick. There we go. But yeah, let's keep moving forward in time just so you can see that aggressive selling occur. But it was at this point here where we saw a high impact bookmap liquidity level that we're looking to see how price reacts at. And this was around 6287 area. And I'm pretty sure that got broken through with strength. And then we headed down to that 6280 area where we had liquidity as well. See, if we went into this barrier saw absorption, I could have taken shorts, but market looks to be a bit blurry coming into this point. But now, as we're breaking down, we see the significance of two bookmap levels, 6280 and 6285. So I'm looking to see how price reacts to either of these levels. If we reverse from this level, right, and start making barriers, that's indicating a trend shift and that we might continue heading bullish until we get to that 6300 level. Especially if we see absorption of something of that nature. But as we see, once we have broken through this area, we're potentially seeing liquidity flipping occurrence, and that is defending the sellers, helping push price lower. And as you'll see, we do get really close. I think we may tap into that. Yeah, we do. We tap into that 6280 level. But look, I did not take any longs from that level. Looking in hindsight, taking longs probably would not have been a bad idea, simply looking as how that was a peak point of reversal. But look at the distribution of liquidity on Bookmap, right? We're seeing barriers follow through with price. We're seeing this start to break. Even if there's breaks, you can come back into it and continue heading down to 6275. So I'm really looking to see how price reacts to these levels, and depending on that, and as you can see, price does fall down. As we're falling down, we might be seeing liquidity flipping as well. But then there we start to kind of chop a little bit, right? And we actually see this in real time. We identify and you can clearly see seller absorption here. And that was at 845, which is right into there. Now, who knows? I might have been able to take along there, but I'm not counting on it simply because we have this barrier here that's defending the seller's position, allowing for potential continual down move. So I'm not betting on the downside just yet, but I'm not betting on the upside just yet. We're just waiting and continuing to wait until we see a reaction that we are confident in placing. As we see now, aggressive buying starts to occur, breaking through that barrier right away. Right? We break through that barrier right away. There's no reaction from that barrier. We simply break through it right away with aggressive buy. Now, very soon it's going to come up into our entry point, and I'll explain to you what resulted in our entry here. Now we're starting to see lots of passive buyers around this relative area. So if we come into that area, see absorption, see reaction off of absorption, that looks really good for the longs and for multiple reasons. First, swept lower liquidity, saw absorption at that level, large aggressive buyers breaking through defending barriers. Now, there's no more defending barriers, there's supporting barriers towards the upside, in which 6300 is a key psychological level as well, and it's a key target for price to head towards. It makes sense logically, it makes sense in terms of macroeconomics, it makes sense in terms of a lot of different factors. And if you will take a look, we push up a bit higher, but we come into that barrier right here in this candle. We come into that barrier and we start reacting off of it. Now here, around here is where I enter. I'm not gonna lie, we did hesitate at entry for a little bit here. And the reason is, I potentially wanted to see a more deep insertion into the barrier, but we saw sellers come in, and you can see these sellers here. Although it's generally low volume, you're seeing high delta near the bottom with around 700 contracts of volume. Not crazy, but it's still pretty significant, seeing as 1K seems to be the average. So we're seeing aggressive selling coming in near the bottom, unable to push through that barrier. We're seeing icebergs at that level, and now we're seeing a reaction in which aggressive buyers are coming in once again. That was a catalyst for entry. Now, I'll show you how it looked on the charts here as well. Our OG stop was here, and I'll explain that to you once again. And our OG take profit was right there. So it was a 1.5 risk to reward. Pretty good in the initial trade, right? Where our stop was below our barrier, and our take profit was right under this um, target so that we avoid getting edged. But the trade changed up a little bit seeing as we move forward. And we were in drawdown for a little bit during this trade as we did come back into that barrier and we started to see some seller support start to incur. But what is it? Is it with mm, decent passive sellers? Not significant at all because significant would be 110 plus. But this is only around 98 or 100. But while here we're seeing stacked barrier where you have multiple 80s, which can equal 160 to potentially 200 if you stack this entire area, which is going to be more significant. Now, look, we're protected nonetheless. We could not predict the occurrence of the selling barrier occur, and all we can do now is stick to the plan and hopefully we see absorption here and buyers come in aggressively breaking through that barrier. And that's what we waited for, and as you will see, that is exactly what happens. And as we're doing such, take a look at what's happening to our barriers as well. Our barriers are moving up with price, supporting these buyers. Passive buyers are supporting active, aggressive buyers, supporting my hypothesis that buying is very aggressive and may continue until those 6,300 levels. So what did we do? We moved our stop up to 7 ticks, which was, let's see, which was at 8.9, because as you'll see later on, this barrier moves up to 6,290 as well. As you'll see soon. There we go. 6,290, key level with lots of liquidity. But here, this was where things start to get a bit tricky. Why? Well, take a look at our upper barrier. Tell me two things that you notice. One, this has lots of liquidity, but two, this 6,298 or 6,297.5 area has liquidity at it. And as we're approaching that level, look at how the passive participants are essentially freaking out. Now, our position is defended. If we lose, we're barely going to take a loss. We're going to hold. But if we stall too much, we will exit. And taking a look at these highs, we're seeing large volume at this level. And we'll see soon enough that sellers do happen to come in. I'm pretty sure we took 20, yeah, 21. Sellers do happen to come in the next candle. Now, this is freaking me out a little bit, but we do have our barriers that are protecting us. I'm essentially trying to exit out near these 6297 levels. So 6297.5 would have been an optimal target around here. because our sellers came in, pushed down to our barrier, and now we are pretty choppy around these areas. Seeing lots of volume above, and what we want to avoid are those buyers getting absorbed and aggressive selling coming in. And as we see here, maybe we hit it there. We got really close to hitting it there, but very aggressive buying started to occur in, and it wasn't moving price upward, and price started coming back down. That's where we exited, and we took 21 ticks in profit because realistically, it's hard to notice even with footprint if buyers will continue pushing up or if sellers will come in and push price lower because potentially buyers can get absorbed here, seeing as there's so much selling liquidity, and then come down towards these 6290 areas where potentially they may get fuel to continue up or they may be getting broken depending on the introduction of these aggressive sellers and how aggressive they actually are. And that's something we do not know. That's something that we cannot control as well. So to manage our risk and to manage the unknowns, we simply got out and price did happen to be stalling. Typically when we're stalling, that's where volume typically is, and where volume is, there may potentially be reversals. So that's how we just managed our trade. If we take a look at it, if we simply held, it would have played out until our take profit, and that would have been a 1 to 5 risk to reward. But this was a safe option, and this was the option that resulted in our realized success today. So nothing too bad about there, and honestly, I'm not seeing much that's telling us that we should have stayed in the trade. I think it was a good thing to exit where we did. Potentially, we could have just left our TP around that 7.5 level and just wait for it to be taken. But as it was coming there, we did not place our TP there. Thus, price went all the way down here and then we knew to exit. Only a 6 tick profit loss, but that's completely okay and completely happy with this trade. And that's gonna be all I have for this trade recap. But we're gonna continue our market analysis until the end of the session to see if we missed out on any trades. Because after this trade, I got a bit passive in the markets as I did not see any setups that I was comfortable taking. Because as you can see, we're just chilling around this level. You can just keep skipping through this. Now finally we clear up a bit here. And now here these barriers moved up once again. That's bullish once again, but just I'm trying to notice what the levels are where price can target above, and it's hard to really tell if there is any levels. Here, we might be seeing a liquidity flip, right? And there is target at 6305 area. But what time is that? 9:15 kind of. This one. Just see what's happening from there. It's very light liquidity and nothing too significant. This level is important though. This 6305, that was this bookmap level right there. Oh wow, we're already there. Yeah, so there's a pump that happened after no setup there. Potentially a setup here, but I'm not too keen on it simply because there's no absorption that has been seen there. Because there's no absorption and because it's not really significant in terms of its how to explain this. It should be bigger than the typical local liquidity, and that barrier simply seemed to be standard market liquidity, which could easily be made from retail traders. You don't want to follow retail traders, you want to follow where the big money is going, and that's what we were attempting to do. But here we're at the 6305 level, and take a look at what happens here. Now here, buyers look to be attempting to push through very significantly, and as you see, they will achieve that. There's a break of that liquidity, and now look here. Now there's a big target at around 6297.5. And because it's so significant compared to other liquidity, that may act as a magnet for price to head towards. It just depends how price wants to react. And as you see, it does happen to go down to that relative area. But we do stay around that area for quite a bit until those aggressive selling starts to occur. I'm just gonna keep moving forward. No setups throughout any of this, remember. I honestly don't see anything too significant. But here, we do now we have more liquidity and more targets on the upside. All of this is there to be targeted. But let's see if price will head all the way up there, or we come down seeking liquidity before that. And this is where aggressive selling came in. Okay. Potentially sell 945. Nah, nothing too significant. And although there are levels here, only the ones that spike out are these four levels here and this 103 level there, which as you see, as we come and approach it, it essentially got removed, most of it. And because it got removed, where will price target now? There's not too much area to target, but we do see sellers continue to fall after that, and now there's nothing stopping them to get lower. And we do happen to go lower. I just want to see until when. And it does seem to be that 6295 levels. Or 6290. So down there. So by then it's already 10 a.m. Wow. And no setups throughout any of that. Nothing that I'm seeing. This is the buys that we're seeing now. So you see aggressive selling shortly follow after from, ooh, maybe a potential sell here. And the reason is because as we're approaching these levels, I want to see if we're noticing any buyer absorption. And on the footprint chart, 955 candle, we definitely don't. Maybe this 10 a.m. candle. But I'm not really seeing enough of a injection into that barrier for us to actually take shorts. So we will be flat from there, and as you see, price continues to fall. And it's at this point where price actually reverses. Now, as you see, we do not even touch this 6925 level as well. Or wait, we push below it and then we come up, right? That's what I think happens. Yeah. We come into that barrier, seeing aggressive selling, then we move even further, and okay, maybe there was something we could have caught there. Okay, this 6291 level, very significant, and also this level right here. I want to see if these orders actually get filled, and see if we see absorption there. That's around 9-1. So right here, 300 contracts. And now we have another significant area there. Uh, 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 I don't know if I would. Where would we target? Maybe 6308. But the absorption, the level of absorption is not too significant. Seeing high level absorption here for sure. We broke out. Maybe seeing absorption here, seeing as there's more there. But we do somewhat have liquidity flipping here, and I want to see if we can break through. And we do seem to be breaking through pretty efficiently. Okay, I'm seeing to see how price reacts at this area. Bars break through significantly. I would love to have taken this trade if absorption was more clear down at that area. And if this barrier was not there, we could have taken longs. But now this barrier was there, now we're broken through, right? So now our bias somewhat goes into bullish perspective once again. But with the selling barrier in place, we're not thinking of doing anything of that nature until we see a buying barrier retracement. And here we are seeing a buying barrier retracement. So if we get into that area, potentially we can enter, and that is 1022. Ooh, that does seem to be a very good point of entry. Two reasons. First, where did we see absorption prior? We saw absorption from there to here, where the high volume is. Ooh, look at where price retraced into. I just want to see if it goes into the barrier. It looks to be going even further down. Yeah, we do go a lot further down. No barrier there. Yeah, it looks that aggressive selling. Oh, there potentially barrier. Let's see what's going on. Nope, nothing to enter off from there as well. And then would you look at that? 10:30 Central Time, and the market session is officially concluded. With this being the only reasonable barrier play that we could have made today, potentially a reversal play could have been made from this area or maybe this area. Hard to tell, hard to confirm. Needs to be more factors, needs to be more confirmation to enter within those. And potentially we need to continue testing for significance over the long run to be more comfortable taking these with less confirmation. But we stick with what worked, and that is why we won today. And yeah, that's essentially going to be all I have here for today. We analyzed the entire market session, gone over my confluences for this trade, what got me into taking that trade, and the overall reasoning and context behind the trade. And we just moved on, seeing as this was the only trade that we could have taken, and that was good. But yeah, that's gonna be all I have. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment down below or take advantage of the free Discord server down in the description down below. Everything is completely free, and I believe that you might be able to gain a thing or two out of it. Also, if you want to start using Orderflow and integrate it within your strategy for completely free, take a look at the links in the description down below where the Bookmap livestream and our channel's official partner, Addis Charts, are there as well. Addis is low-key one of the best platforms that I've used. Very simple to set up, very simple to use, very user-friendly, and that's very important when it comes to trading. Also, it's completely free for crypto, I believe, in regards to data, but not 100% sure. And also, there's only a 15-minute delay. You can start backtesting using that 15-minute delay and start integrating your strategy with Orderflow, with the free plan itself, and then potentially doing your own research to decide what you want to do next. But yeah, definitely I would check it out in my opinion. But other than that, that's all I have here for today. and I should be seeing you guys either tomorrow or on Sunday for pre-week or weekly review session. But yeah, I guess I'll see you guys then. Have a great rest of your day, great weekend. Goodbye.